Happy Sunday, everyone. Thanks for joining me at the Just Live podcast on this wonderful self care Sunday. We had some technical difficulties, but we're off to a good start. For those of you who are usually here with me on Sunday, you know we start with a little bit of music, give some people some chances to get in, get comfortable, grab your drink, get a seat, and tune on in. So I'm just going to get something going for you here, and we'll be with you in just a bit. Oh, one more thing. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Have all your friends come in. We have a special treat for you today, I promise. And you know I won't steer you wrong. Happy Self Care Sunday. I know sometimes that music has a mind of its own. That's okay. We're going to keep on trucking. Happy Self Care Sunday. If you have not had a chance, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this episode with all your friends. And if you have already done that, thank you very much. Because as you know, the more likes, the better the content. We're going to get this situation situated because this bro is also doing its own thing today. And that's okay because we love it. I'm here for it on a Sunday. So listen, for those of you who are joining me right now, and for those of you who will join me later, we have a treat for you today. I have Dasan Ahanu. Some of you may know him as Chris Massenburg. Some of you may know him as Dasan. Some of you may not know him at all. So I urge you to pay attention because you will not want to miss this show. I see that it's kind of dry in the comments right now. So I know some of you just come for the Queen Sanaa music, and that's okay. I'm going to play one more song for you before we get started. And so hold tight and let me see what we can get going for you today. I think that in the spirit of I don't want to speak too soon. I don't have everything in my deck here. No, I don't, but that's okay. In the spirit of spoken word, we're going to do a little bit of singing poetry. I'm going to play God's Heart for you today. And while we do that, please get this link to this episode and forward it to everyone you know. I want to see this chat popping today. I can't tell you what to do, but let's try to get a robust discussion going on today. We have a good conversation for the day. So let's see what we can do. I'm holding you accountable. Bring at least one friend. I won't be mad if you don't, but I really would love to see it. All right. So God's Heart here for you. I'm going to wait for this room to get a little more full. I'm not going to waste this quality content. That is not a shot at those of you who will come later on. But of course, you know, the conversations when we're live, they get real good. So here we go.
Yeah. Queen Sanaa. Why did you say that I could have your heart? And I could have your heart. Why did you say that I could have your heart? And I could have your heart. So many ways. I took it all apart. I took it all apart. I lost my way. You said I broke your heart. Or is it a feeling? Like ether, I vanished, now I'm the villain. You said you'd always love me, even when I'm in my feelings. Mistakenly allowed to be master of inner dealings. Cause I'm emotionally immature. Who isn't? Take me away. Take me away. Where would I be if you chose to take it all away? Where would you be if I chose to give it all away? Where would I be if you chose to give it all away? Don't take it away. Where would you be if I chose to give? Why did you say that I could have your heart? That I could have your heart. Why did you say that I could have your heart? That I could have your heart. So many ways. I took it all apart. I took it all apart. I lost my way. You said I broke your heart. At night I pray. I just wanna get to another day. And ride on the vibe and I give my valuables away. And get to the top before I lose the flow of this way. I swear I only want it to be safe. It's wishful thinking. Take me away. Take me away. Where would I be if you chose to take it all away? Take it all away. Where would you be if I chose to give it all
Thank you for letting me play my music. You know, I realize that it's a privilege to have a platform where if I chose to play my songs for the whole entire hour, I could. And so I'm grateful for those of you who show up to listen to me faithfully every Sunday. And don't tell me that my music stinks. I kid, I kid. All right, well, I think now is a good time to introduce my guest. So I'm going to read his bio. Chris Massenburg is Dasan Ahanu, poet, MC, cultural organizer, playwright, performance artist, lecturer, educator. Some of his accolades include Alumni Nasir Jones Fellow, Hip Hop Archive at the Hutchins Center for African and African American Research, Harvard University, resident artist at St. Joseph's Historic Foundation, Hayti Heritage Center, managing director at the Black Poetry Theater, member of Black Jedi Zulus, founder, coordinator, and coach of the Jambalaya Soul Slam Bull City Slam team. Hey, all right. So, if you look in the description of today's episode, you will find all the links, and we will drop a couple during today's show. And I, without further ado, I'm going to welcome. Wait a minute, got to bring him in the right way. Y'all know how I feel about being all mediocre and whatnot. We're going to welcome Mr. Dasan. Welcome to the show today.
Yes. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I feel the same way. When you said yes, I was like, what? Yeah, I'm honored. I'm just going to say that, y'all. When I met Dasan, I was still singing with my teenage voice. And just to watch you bloom over the years and just become this legend in your own right, to me is, I don't even have words for it. But why don't you tell the people a little bit about yourself?
Well, yeah, born and raised around North Carolina. I'm a North Carolina boy. Um, Families from North Carolina. Lived in Raleigh, lived in Hollis Springs, Fuquay. Um, Man, and so I'm an artist, poet, playwright. Also recording artist. Big hip hop head. Work with a lot of musicians and a lot of artists from across the state over the years, young and old. I'm a curator, program developer. I'm an educator. Do a lot of workshops, schools, community organizations, but I also teach college. Right now, I'm a visiting lecturer at UNC Chapel Hill. I got my start at St. Augustine's University. Then it was St. Augustine's College. I'm an alumni, so go Falcons. And cultural organizer, arts administrator. I've been working in nonprofit arts management for a long time, helping organizations kind of bring art and culture to the community. And I've been working with Carolina Performing Arts for the last 4 years, managing a Mellon-funded grant initiative. Man, art is what I love. And yeah, man, it's done me well in this community. I stayed home because it's taking home is taking care of me. So.
I think one of the things that I love, well, first of all, thank you for all you do.
Hmm.
Because I don't think a lot of people realize how important the arts are to the development of a community, to the
Hmm.
development of a culture, to the development of a people. And I believe that children should be introduced to art at a very young age. But I also I like to hear that you stayed home and that the community supports you. That
Yeah,
really resonates with me.
yeah, it was important to me. Over the years, especially early on, there was so many people like, Dip, what are you doing here? To the A, to New York, to Cali. And I was like, I don't want to do any of that. Like, I don't have a problem at home. I wasn't desperate or dying to leave. Some folks have reason to leave because they aren't getting taken care of. But, my folks took care of me. And so the only reason why I have an arts career is because of the way folks looked out for me. And so my mindset was, I have no problems allowing art to open up the world for me to be able to go. But at the end of the day, this is where I want to come back to. And, so I stayed because I'm like, I'll stay here until, something pulls me somewhere else.
I mean, that's real. So hopefully nothing will pull you somewhere else. I think you've done a lot for North Carolina. And so we had talked about some questions that I was going
Hmm.
to ask you. You may have noticed I like to freestyle a little bit too.
Yeah.
Uh, but let's get down to it. I really would like to have some insight into your opinion on how much hip hop or rap is influenced by spoken word.
Um, for me, they go hand in hand, and one of the reasons why is like, when I first got into spoken word and I started looking, um, early on, what you had was when you first started seeing spoken word, it was all punk. It was all punk rock, it was all punk kids. So any of the early records or any instances of what we would call spoken word on television, it was from the punk scene. What you had was once hip hop really established itself, what we come to know spoken word as, you can see the influence of hip hop all across it. Like hip hop gave everyone a different way to approach, just taking the stage and delivering their poems, because hip hop itself as a culture is a place for folks to escape to. It's welcoming, it encourages you, and if you're down for the culture and you respect the culture, then everyone puts our arms around you and we take care of our own. And so you can feel that influence, regardless of where someone is from. That brashness, that boldness, that all of that energy, you can feel hip hop through it. And so, and because of that, I think is why, especially on this side of the country, there's so many folks, especially young folks, who look to spoken word as an outlet, because it gives you that same freedom, that same feeling of being able to kind of own your own voice, just the same way hip hop did.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Now, uh, not for nothing, y'all, just walking up there to that microphone, unless you have that automatic built in confidence, you kind of got to work your way up to that to really get to spitting, whether or not the crowd is going to be feeling what you have to say. Do you agree, Dasan?
I totally do. And you know what's wild is that, you know much like hip hop had all of these musical and all of these, inspirations. Young cats in New York had gospel. They had Caribbean music. They had all of this at their disposal. When you think about spoken word, you've got preaching. You've got folks who are working minstrels. You've got all of these performance influences, especially down south, um, and all of it is about giving you the ability to be able to just own a room. And it's freeing, it's affirming, and it's having that moment with the audience, is life changing.
Hmm. Yeah, I like what you said about owning a room. So I'm going to start with this conversation. You guys get a chance to see it just a bit, but for me, this piece was you owning it. So would you like to tell us a little bit about this piece?
Um, let's see, which one is it?
So let me see. It is called, bear with me, y'all, technology. It's called Conversation with.
So, what's so crazy about that one, right? 'Cause I thought that was where you were going. Um, so that I was in Boston and I was at this venue and I heard this poet on the microphone make this comment to open their poem. And everyone in the room was like, ooh. And I'm sitting there like, what? And immediately I was tight and I had to hold it. I started kind of jotting down a response and sat and then wrote this poem. So, folks down here heard it, but I was in Denver for this video. I was in Denver, Colorado, at national competition and got to spit this poem. Um, and it was just one of those moments where I really wanted people to understand that this thing is not the same for all of us, you know, and we can't allow that to be taken for granted, especially us as Black folks. Like, you don't play with what has mattered so much to us, and so that's what this is all about. So, you know, I had to have a little moment, a little moment with the people.
Yeah, you definitely schooled the people. So, y'all, I'm going to bring you Conversations with God. And of course, if you have any trouble seeing or hearing it, just let me know.
I once heard a white poet ask God, what is it like to get all of the credit without none of the blame? And I wondered if he recognized the oppression in his inquiry. Wondered if he noticed the whitewashed atheism on his tongue as he so casually took the Lord's place in our consciousness in vain, because ain't no way that anyone with skin of bronze and hair of wool would ever get to take the glory without the shame. That there be a trick question. See, my God paid peace out of chaos, made life out of mud, made family out of imagination, had his truth co-opted by snakes, saw his work turned to tragedy, was forced to rebuild with nothing more than what he could stash for a rainy day, had a child out of wedlock, saw that child raised by another man, then saw that child persecuted for his abilities and martyred by a system afraid of him. So tell me, who are you speaking to again? They hung my God from trees. They immortalized doors in stained glass and hung him in living rooms to remind us we are not fit for gated community unless we repent for our sins. Sin we are born in, ain't that light black skin. Your God took his son and made him shepherd over a flock with faces like midnight and hair of wool. Ain't that like nepotism? My God saw his son elevated the good shepherd for laying down his life for those he was giving care of. Ain't that like charismatic leadership? How come they never die of natural causes? Ain't tragic they call it and target their last name. So tell me, who are you speaking to again? See, this is the problem with white liberalism. A leveling of the playing field becomes parking lot whenever you find out it's paved with the asphalt of black skin, but that parking lot ain't fit for others until you draw them white lines. Ain't that what it means to be civilized? Ain't they been teaching us compartmentalization? From the top of the building, does that empty parking lot look like the hull of a slave ship? Do executives get to work early to watch laborers park on black backs? Does it feel like overseer? Do they ever see the pavement gasp? I'm sorry, there will be no amen for you here, poet, because your words sound too much like fork-tongued truth amidst my tribe. Does your pen feel like rifle? Would you give it to be to use if I brought you my people as barter? It will not be better if you darken the language. I have seen what happens when white people put black people in passages, then put them on stage and barter them for anyone willing to pay attention. Ain't our lives just another cash crop? See, this is the problem with post-racial rhetoric. It becomes the perfect hiding spot for what we don't want to admit to. The perfect place to attack an illusion rather than call oppression by name. But when has white patriarchy ever believed in accountability? When has white privilege ever turned down a claim? Doesn't white supremacy still see us as everything wrong here, even though we have overcome the subjugation, bigotry, and pain? So when you ask, who is God, to get all of the credit and none of the blame, remember that the God you are speaking to and the God that speaks through me is not the same.
First of all,
Yeah.
this will be coming with today, y'all. Listen, I'm not even, I'm not, this will be coming. So if you have not already, hit the like button. Share this. Yes, you gotta do it. You gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
owning the room, owning the room.
Yeah. Got to.
Owning the room. Opulent Jade gives you flames, more fire, more fire. All right. Yes, please do. Right now, stop what you're doing. Go to youtube.com. Look for Dasan Ahanu, DASANAHANU, and go ahead and subscribe to that page. There's so much good material on his page, y'all. Also, dasanahanu.com. So, All right. I feel like I need to rest in that for a minute. Okay.
That's all right. Hey, that's all right.
But it leads me to ask the question: who were your influences growing up?
Um, you know, I started I gotta, start first off my family because I was a rambunctious, hyperactive kid, and my mom was a teen mom. She had me when she was 16. So I give a lot of credit to my family, working class family, for like just trying to keep me engaged. I started reading really early because, they were just kind of like, one, I'm the first grandchild in the house. I'm the first baby. So, I was the experimental baby. So everybody trying everything. But also just really feeding me books and just keeping me active. So they allowed me to kind of express my imagination because I had nothing but adults around. So everyone was just trying to feed into me, pour into me. Um, I started out comic books and like mystery novels and sci-fi novels. I like that kept my attention. So I like to think. I like to be pushed to think. And then I got introduced to poetry just because I got moved to advanced classes because they were like, he's either too hyperactive or he's not being challenged enough. And I got lucky and they said he's been challenged enough because it was, it's like either you get tested or you get Ritalin, one or the other. And I got tested and they were like, ooh. So I started being in these classes that started giving me more to think about. Um, and then by the time, I get to middle school, it's hip hop. I'm really starting to come to understand hip hop. And I was just like, okay, I'm having conversations with people I hadn't heard before. First time I had a conversation about music with anyone that wasn't black was when Beastie Boys dropped License to Ill. So, like, then hip hop is becoming a part of how I see the world. Um, and so, those were my early influences. My mom was a big music lover. Lots of vinyl in the house. So of course, Commodores, Stevie Wonder, like you hear gospel music, but like soul, James Brown, funk records, George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic, Luther Vandross. So like I'm getting this palette of like songwriters and these, like I'm just getting hit with all of this as I'm also kind of coming to love hip hop. And then, you got pop of the 80s, but like soul music and hip hop, that kind of fed my insides. And then like comic books and like all that fed my imagination. So that's where I drew from until I came to know more about what poetry really was. But early on, um, the page was just a way for me to capture my thoughts, but that's where my feelings and emotions and thinking was coming from.
Oh, that's really powerful. Well, first of all, no sleep till Brooklyn, okay?
Hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a plethora of influences to kind of mold and shape into where you are at this point. So, for those of you who didn't catch it, starting with the arts early, I'm going to say it again, starting with the arts early in the core years is extremely important. Who knows what might happen
Hmm.
with your children?
Yeah.
Just expose them to some Commodores at 3 years old on a Saturday while you washing the walls and whatnot.
Right. Exactly.
Listen, is that just from our era or are parents still doing that? Are these new school parents still doing that on a
I don't
Saturday?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know I don't know what's happening on Saturday morning, but that's
Yeah.
exactly what that was. Yeah. Yeah.
So, what I want to do now, as y'all know I'm a fashionista. Shout out to Savvy Chic Clothing,
Hmm.
savvychiclothing.com for those of you who don't know. Um, but what caught me about this video was the entrance with the shoes, right?
Hmm.
Love a nice sneaker. But then the t-shirt, and I was just like, I gotta pay attention to the words because the outfit is kind of pulling. So I'm going to play bars
Hmm.
for you all. Like, and y'all pay attention. Just pay attention. And any young person that you know who is aspiring to be an artist, make sure they listen to. I'm not listening. I'm just gonna play bars for you. Okay?
I drifted off to sleep with Nas's Illmatic playing in the background. As I fell deeper into slumber, the words started to overcome my dreams. Next thing you know, I'm walking down the block. I see a kid at the bus stop. I stop and we talk about hip-hop, and I feel like I'm Nas in the park with Shorty Doo-Wop. He's telling me he rhymes, so I asked him what he rhyme about, and I listen to the words that he give me up out his mouth, the rims he want to have, the cars he want to push, the chicks he want to date, how he smoke a purple kush, the money he gonna make in his fame up in the industry. I asked him if he made it, was he still gonna remember me? He said maybe, so I laughed at little dude. He said, I'll let you rock some ad-libs, maybe an interlude. He said that black card, yeah, he had to have it. I said, you can't define a man by a piece of plastic. Cat Stacey Augman thinking they running rebels being played by a shark, happy to ice their bezels if you never realize they playing for a devil. So set your sights higher and never ever settle. He was like, oh, okay, old man. You got a little something with you. But he was like, where your bars at? My bars at? I said, I don't do illusions, I don't do the parlor tricks. You vote these bastards relevant, I say F the politics. Rebellion on my vocal cords and fire on my tongue. I ride on these pages till it all comes undone. I write like a young Stokely, so when I hit a stage, a change is on the way, lyrics Kwame to array. Power in the shadows in the absence of light. I know black power only right at midnight. Look into my eyes, my frowns suggest tension. I put text on the track for your reading comprehension. I deliver rainbows for souls that are hurting. Swagger Jesse Jackson, purpose LeVar Burton. Ask me if I'm ready, I tell you for certain. Especially when I know I really put the work in. Every day is preparation, dreaming is rehearsing, and when I sleep it means me and God is conversing. I said, are you afraid to win or you afraid to lose? You afraid to accept responsibility, you afraid to choose. I seen people tie the noose and climb up the tree rather than be the person they're supposed to be than that strange fruit. Where you'd rather live a lie than learn the truth. See, I can see, as I look into your eyes, you don't want to be held accountable. You see a mountain, I see a molehill. You act like it's insurmountable. But didn't Moses find God at the top of a peak? He got a deal. God produced 10 tracks. He returned to the people with a classic, rocked them jams, got distribution. That means your grind is your climb, so tell me what the hell you've been doing. If your dreams are over there, and you standing right here, the only barrier to your progress is fear. He like, yo, I'm in the studio pounding out tracks. That ain't the way to beat the machine. John Henry died like that. What's your stage show like? What's your concepts worth? What a variety in your verse. Tell me, what is it all about? Otherwise, you need to stand on the sidelines and silently hate. Watch us go after it and silently wait. You playing. I'm trying to feel what you're talking about, but I can't grasp what you're saying. So you don't understand we can't waste any time because there's promise waiting for us at the finish line. See, I was a hero whenever I touched the mic. They call me a menace like I'm the Dark Knight for calling up frustration that all of us got pent. The game's got two faces, the industry's Harvey Dent. These cats are hungover and their videos are proof. They drunk off the hype that left their soul on the roof. Our lives under attack and nobody bothered to warn us. When they talk about black lives, all they want to argue is some twins from Transformers. I'm talking about our lives and how we can transform them. Sharpening up my pen, tightening my delivery, giving you these sun rays and metaphors and similes so marvel at the sight and how it shines so vividly. Tell me, when you in the club popping bottles with people you don't know because the label told you to put on a show, you tell me what them bars like. When you stuck behind that concrete, looking in your mother's eye and you see that tear down her cheek because they made you act like you was really from them streets, you tell me what them bars like. When you realize the standard has been set so high that you can't reach because you never bothered to listen to the lessons we were trying to teach, you tell me what that bar like. You tell me what them bars like. You tell me what your bars like. Bars.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Because the game's got two faces and these cats are Harvey Dent.
yeah, you know.
First of all,
You know, it's a little something.
yeah, the crowd goes wild. Yeah. So I say again, thank you for all you do because
Yeah.
honestly, there's a lot of young people that are running for what they perceive as fame. They don't even really know what they're chasing.
Yeah.
Do they?
Nah.
So let's talk about it. Talk about it.
Yeah, they don't. And I mean, one of the things that kind of really was beautiful for me is I had a chance to sit in on this panel. And it was a bunch of jazz artists. And so what they were talking about was the perception that we get from movies and television. Jazz artists are always, they're womanizers, they're alcoholics. Like there's this tragic perception. And they were like, actually, that's not how it is. You have jazz artists who most people don't know, who've been able to build lives, build homes, put their kids through college, travel the world, and build careers because of their talents and abilities. And what that said was, is like there's a way to build a way for yourself as an artist that doesn't have to be in what we call the mainstream, because there's so many folks who are doing it, but that's not what's held up for us. So what's held up for us is this idea of opulence, you red carpets and all of this thing, but there's a price for it. And because there's a price for it and there's all this whatever waiting on the other side, there's a lot of gatekeepers. And sitting in that opened that up for me. It's like, what do we really want? Do we want a place for our art, or do we want the things that our art could possibly get for us? And for me, I want a place for my art. And I'm not mad at anybody who wants the things that your art can get you, because it's out there to get. And but it comes with a thing. And so for me, I want young folks to know that that one path isn't the only path, so that you can make that choice. If that's what you're after, there's it ain't gonna change, right? I remember talking to Skaz Digger of the world famous Butter Team, and he was like, right, that path ain't changing. What's in that room, what's behind that door, and none of that changing. But it's not the only house, right? And so we got to tell that to folks so that they understand, that there's more to how you can make a way for yourself out here. It's just might not be as glamorous, but it'll sustain you and it'll give you way more, could possibly give you way more. So yeah. So it's one of those things we gotta make sure that there's more to it than fame. There's way more to it than fame, and sometimes the cost of fame is way too high. We lose way too many folks, who get caught up out here. Um, especially for our people, black and brown folks, like folks who come from a particular that journey, that rise can be overwhelming, man. And we lose too many. I'm tired of looking up and watching folks caught up, hemmed up, you know, drugs, alcohol, whatever, um, all this brilliance that could, they don't have to live that way. And seeing folks make a whole lot of money off of them along the way, man.
I totally agree with that. And it seems like, a lot of elders pass upon the opportunity to share that wisdom when it's there. Everybody's looking for,
hmm
go
That's
ahead, go ahead, talk about
that's why
it.
I love Buster's speech when he got the BET Lifetime Achievement Award, because it was so on point. Like it's like we can't be pitted. We can't have these generational battles. We've got to restore the relationship and the idea of what an OG is, and what a mentor and what an elder is. Like we got to restore that, um, and if we do that, then we can help push back at some of that, because there's a conversation that you get to have. For us to not have that conversation benefits folks other than us, because the manipulation is easier. But like when we dialed in and we plugged in, then it's a lot easier, because that game can get passed down and folks can make some really solid decisions from it. But yeah, that's why I love that. I was listening to Buster and I was like, yes, exactly. Like all of us of a certain age can name the folks who pulled us to the side and was like, hold on, let me just give you a heads up. And we got to make sure that's always the case, generation to generation.
That's right. And listen, that's facts. First of all, Opulent Jade said, I usually look at my comments more often, but
hmm
Opulent Jade said the responsibility to having a mic is to say something worth listening to. Well done, sir. I totally agree. Also, shout out to a brother of a certain age. If you're still here with me, please do drop your link in the chat as well, so people can go ahead and follow your platform. Um, Thank you to my moderator who also shouted out SavvyChicClothing.com. Yes,
Yeah.
y'all, I have some clothing worth looking at too.
Mm.
All right. Now, and some believe that the youngsters aren't really listening. And I don't think it's necessarily that they're not listening. There may be some pushback because we did teach them to challenge everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're still hearing what we're saying, and those seeds are still being planted. So y'all don't give up. If you have some wisdom to drop that wisdom and keep it pushing. You don't have to try to drill it in them, but give it to them. You got to give it to them. So my last question, at least as far as the interview portion goes, is what was, I don't know if I should ask this before I played this collaboration or after, but what was your favorite collaboration of all time?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, ooh, that's a great question. Um, I think, um, man, there is, and it's hard to find. It's hard to find this joint because I've got some collaborators that like I love, including the one you're getting ready to play. But the one I have to say, there's a joint that I did with K Hill. Amazing MC producer, worked with a lot of different folks in the game. Um, and it's, shouts out to Stallone and Weathers. That's the collective that he's a part of right now, with Precise Politics. We did a joint called The Worst. And that was sort of a real introduction for me to a lot of folks that he decided to put me on this track. It got a little, got some buzz, got picked up on, to be put on a volume of Preemptive Hype. That sort of set the stage, and off of that, I signed an indie deal, with an independent label. We did a little work together for a little while, a short stint of me flirting with music like that because poetry is home for me. But that joint, man, we performed it a lot. Like, I got to give credit. That was probably one of my most fun collaborations is working with K, man. Like, we did a couple joints after that, but the worst were always that sort of helped me figure out. I look to folks like Big Rube, working with the Dungeon Family, and there's just so many examples. Medusa out on the West Coast, that these folks who were contributing to these hip hop records, and I wanted to kind of figure out what I could do and what my approach would be, and that joint kind of set the stage for me. So definitely K Hill, The Worst.
Thank you for sharing that. And I missed an opportunity to shout out Skaz Digga from the world famous Butter Team out there in the Bull City. Actually, the first song I ever recorded was in Flavor Fruit Studios. Way
Yeah,
back when. I'm not that old, y'all, but I'm old
yeah,
enough.
yeah. It's crazy,
Yes.
man. Love Skaz, man. Skaz, working with Skaz. Actually, bars. How that got started was I was working with Skaz and working with Cavassier,
Okay.
and Skaz put together this tape for Cavassier, and that piece started as an interlude for Cavassier and then kind of grew from there. So shouts to Skaz Digger, man. I spent a lot of time at Favorite Food.
Yeah, he's been doing this for a long time. Another legend in his own right. So, can you tell me a little bit about Cops and Robbers? And is it Ty Allen? Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah, so Ty Allen is out of Brooklyn, a poet, and a soul jazz vocalist and a music producer. And we met. He was out on tour, and we did a gig together. And we connected immediately. We've been homies for a long time, and he would invite me up to do shows. And then when he came down, we kind of get together and build. And we've been doing work playing with different bands for a long time. Probably, we came up with a project called The Originals. um, so that's my homie. We did a project with a couple of other artists called the Heavy Light Experience. And what happened was he would just start sending me beats. And some of it was for him and some things that he was putting out. And then he would just keep some things. So what he did was he tricked me into an album because I had only been doing collaborations. Um, 2006 was my, my only music album that I put out. I had been doing collaborations and kind of joints. Everybody was asking, like, when you gonna do more music? I'm like, I don't have time, between everything. Next thing you know, I had 5 or 6 joints done, and he was like, so what we doing? I was like, you and Cops and Robbers was one of those joints. So he kind of helped me to come to put out this album, put out called Words, Rhythm, and Melodies. He produced most of the tracks on there, executive produced it with me. We kind of put this together, and Cops and Robbers was one of those things. When he sent it to me, he had the hook on it, and I was like, okay, this is timely, because we put this album together during the pandemic and the uprisings over the death of George Floyd. Like, we were both feeling it, and I was like, okay, this helps me decide like what I want to do with this album and the things I want to say. We got to do this. And then I worked with, actually what's so funny is George Yamazawa, who's an amazing poet and MC, had gotten into videography, and he had just moved back, and so we got him to shoot the video, and he did the video. So this one was dope, and it's just it's me and my bag in terms of poetry. I'm an MC as well, but in terms of me and spoken word on a record, this is me and my bag. So I really rock to this joint.
I could see that. You guys got to see it for yourself. So I'm going to go ahead and play Cops and Robbers featuring Ty Allen. Shout out to Brooklyn, of course. And just a heads up, there's some colorful language for those of you who don't prefer it. But hey, that's not the majority of the presentation. So just stick with us, if you will. Thank you very much. And here we go.
Unemployed and neglected, our representatives get disrespected. Our communities underfunded because the resources get redirected. Put our babies in harm's way, treat the death toll as unavoidable. Tell us that the work is essential, but treat the workers as disposable. Give bullets community service, tell them to knock off hours if they spot them. Give out GoFundMe's like Oscars for the officer that shot him. Tell me what the track record sound like when the bar's high and the ball's on bottom. But stop resisting is the punchline, and the ad-lib is I got him. Oh yeah. It's a hard stance with the right stance. I'm trying to avoid them both. I'm trying hard just to stay with the living. I'm trying hard just to be 3 steps ahead. Cops and robbers fucking with me. Cops and robbers fucking with me. Oh yeah.
Thank you for that piece.
Yeah.
Princess C says, do you have questions for Dasan? Drop them in the chat. So before I ask my final question, is there anything specific that you'd like to share with the people, or do you want to talk a little more about that piece?
Well, they're related. One of the things that I was always told was to make sure to tell your story, and if you're not, somebody's going to tell it for you. And so, the idea of speaking truth to power, and so I want to just say to any artist out there, the goal is not to change the message. It's not the goal. And also, there's no fun in that. You know what I'm saying? We're artists, we're creatives. The goal is to figure out how to make the truth sexy, you know? Like, that's the thing. The thing is, how do we serve this up for folks, to where they can't deny it, they can't ignore it. Matter of fact, they craving more. And that's the thing that I want to say to every artist out there. And that's been my goal. It's like, I early on decided that I never wanted to ever find myself in any room that I didn't have anything for. Like, I'm not gonna be kept quiet in any room. Whatever room I walk in, I got something for y'all. And so that's been part of how I create. And I want artists to do that, because what it does is it goes back to what we said earlier. It opens up opportunities, and because of your ability to move, and what you'll find is, even in places that you don't think want to hear what needs to be said, how you say it changes everything. And so I wanted to see more artists just lean into that, because we need it. We need it.
I totally agree. I was looking for that reaction button like on Zoom. It's going to put a 100 up because that's facts. We
Mhm.
do have one question from Opulent Jade, and she wants to know, are you teaching and guiding the youth?
Yeah, so I've been a teaching artist for a long time. What's so funny is, I got, growing up, I did a lot of youth work, summer programs. Actually, my aunt was working Head Start. First time I ever, did any youth work was helping her work with the Head Start program. So that's always been a part of what I've done. It took a little while to get to a point of being able to really, do workshops, but I've done middle school residencies. I primarily do middle school and up. I tell everybody, comes to elementary school, I love visiting, and I don't mind visiting and hanging out with the kids, but like, I'm not the person to control an elementary school classroom. Like, the babies have me wrapped around their finger. Sixth grade and up, we can get to it. But and I also help folks build programs and invite other poets in to do workshops, and because we like you said, you were telling folks, we need to provide this exposure early, and I want to help be a conduit, for helping place artists in those positions who do want to go and help inspire young folks, and I've had a chance to work, all the way through K through 12, and then, also teach college students. So I want to help other folks who want to do that, because not everybody needs to be teaching workshops, but those who have the ability and the capacity for it, I want to help them understand how to navigate and get in that space. So, but yeah, 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 I love working with young writers and young artists, man. They inspire, they keep me pushing.
No, that's real. And shout out to you for that and sharing your gifts. Opulent Jade did ask a second question. I'm kind of wanting you to rephrase a little bit. She says, great, they need people like you. I totally agree. So the question, it reads as, with the art community today, the future doesn't look bright. Are you asking him if he thinks the future doesn't look bright, or did you mean to ask it a little bit differently than that? Just to give you a second to clarify. Um, I do agree. So at the local Head Start out here where I am, I used to, before COVID changed everything, I used to have the children making pillows by hand. And one of the things that I learned through those activities was, as they were learning to hand sew, they were also starting to express themselves about different things. So we'd just be sitting there sewing these pillows, and they'd be talking about, well, I didn't have breakfast this morning. Or one would say, this is what we had for breakfast and we ate as a family. And it was just a really good space to get their little noodles going,
Hmm.
right? And it opened up into something bigger, in that you got a chance to learn what their thoughts were like. You got a chance to hear them talk about things they may not have talked about in that space. So when we talk about the arts, I believe that designing and making clothing is an art.
Hmm. It
And it's
is.
a lost
It
art because
is.
home ec is done, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that goes to, I think one of the things Dr. J was mentioning is this idea of, there's a range. And when you do some research around art, like, there are different classifications of what was art, and across the board, being able to work with your hands, sewing, crafts, craftsmanship, design. all of these are artistic outputs. And so when we think about the future, we have to create more spaces for creativity.
Mhm.
And if we don't create more spaces for creativity, what happens is that the spaces that are available dictate what people's creative output is. So if we don't create spaces for creativity, then social media dictates what the creative output is, as opposed to having a space where you get to be creative and you take that to social media. But where you are pulling from and where you're learning from and what you're accountable to is this space. We're getting arts taken away from our traditional educational spaces, so we've got to create other spaces. When someone comes with a check and is like, I want to promote you or put you on this stage or whatever, if there isn't a space for that person to come out of or come back to, then whoever's offering the opportunity dictates what that creative output looks like. But when you're grounded, then what happens is what dictates that output is that space. One of the things I look to is I look like that whole Chicago movement, like Chance, Smino, No Name, like Mick Jenkins. Like, I know, because I'm a poet, that there's a rich artistic community with a lot of, things happening on the ground. Young Chicago authors. There's a slam movement across the city of Chicago. And there's folks like Iman Shumpert, who also rhymes, that come out as youth from these kind of programs. So when they're these spaces, what dictates what they create is the space, not the industry or whoever's offering the check. So when you were in places where that lacks, then our young folks, who are the future of art and culture, are way more susceptible. But when we can create spaces and folks like you and I are there to guide them, then we're who they think about when they move. You know what I'm saying? And when they get caught up, we're who they come back to check in with. And then, so we can pull them back a little bit before they get too gone. But that's how we project the future. We've got to and recognize that folks don't want to give us resources for these spaces for a reason. Because if we have these spaces, the kind of conversations we have, and art is the voice of the people, what we're able to talk about and direct the art towards is different. So it's hard to get resources for the spaces, but we need them. So we got to keep pushing to say we need to be able to hold spaces for us to gather and to create and inspire each other. Any collective throughout history that we see, Black Arts Movement, like any of these, the power out of those collectives and what people created were amazing across the board. You know what I'm saying? Art, fashion, music, what have you, visual art, it's because of the collective that fed everybody and kept everybody tied to what they were really about, no matter where they went, how big they got all over the world. That's the thing.
Yeah, that's so real. And it's honestly, it's one of the things that I love about the Hayti Heritage Center. In fact, some of everything goes on there artistically, and they give back to the community.
Yep.
And I believe that that space is available in a lot of places, but people don't really know about it, and they really
Yeah.
don't get the funding. Like you said, those resources are scarce. So, y'all continue to donate to your local arts council, specifically the ones that support disparaged communities
Yep.
and Black communities. Not always synonymous, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to know, what's there and make sure that they can stay open and make sure that your children or the kid next door knows about it, right? So, Opulent Jade's other question, she actually did clarify, was in the art community today, the future doesn't look bright. And I, open to your interpretation of how she meant the question.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing is there's a lot of energy, and there's a lot happening, um, and there's a lot of folks seeking and searching, and they're doing it artistically, searching for a way, searching for an answer, searching for affirmation, searching for attention, searching to fit in, searching to be able to express themselves, like searching for a lot, and there's there's a lot of things out here waiting for them that aren't necessarily healthy. Um, and so I think if we're not careful, um, what we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of stuff that just isn't feeding us the way we need to be fed. Um, but art is always a sign of the times, and we're in a time, we're in a time where there's a lot out here around us that isn't good for us. And so I think the idea of the future not being bright is not bleak. It's just a reality. It's a wake-up call that says that we got work to do. Those of us who see it and are aware and understand, we got work to do. And so we've got to start having some hard and difficult conversations, and we've got to dig in. And I think yeah, I'm glad. We got to keep saying that, but not despairingly. Like, the future isn't bright. It's not going to be bright unless we make it so, and that's the important key. Like, when we recognize that, it's not to say that it's out of our control. It's like, this is what can happen if we don't take control of it, and we can. And what I've learned, because I teach, is that when you can sit with some young folks, right, and you're able to create space, and you can kind of let them, don't talk down to them, don't talk at them, create some space for them to talk to you, you'll find out they're searching. And if we don't open that space, they're gonna find something. There's always somebody waiting that's got a check and an opportunity and an intention. And what we see young folks do a whole lot of stuff, and then on the backside, as they get older, everything shifts, and we look at them like, what about all the? And the problem is they went in and they didn't have an understanding. When they get it on the backside, they're like, yo, this is all foul. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is foul. I don't want to do this no more. So but we've watched them go through the gauntlet. The problem is that we got to be careful about is that we don't want folks on the other side to become disenfranchised and bitter because they went through the gauntlet. Because once again, like we said, we need them to be in place to turn around and go, hey, I was just over there. That ain't what you want. Like, come here, let me put you up on game. And we want them to come back home, you know what I'm saying, and say, hey, this is what they're going to do. They're going to come, they're going to dangle this in front of you. I fell for it. Let me just tell you, don't do it. And when you combine that with those of us who are still here, who are like, here are the other alternatives and other ways that you can show up as an artist, but if it's just us who've never been there, or we're the only ones that say it, it's like, I respect you, but this looks real shiny over here. But when somebody come back from over there too, like, ooh, yeah, they right. And let me tell you what, then we can start to shift things. But yeah, it's not gonna be bright unless we make it, because it not being bright makes somebody a whole lot of money, and they ain't trying to change the circumstances.
Yeah. And, I totally agree with all of that. And I like what you said about sharing. And I also like how you acknowledge that sometimes they're not going to listen because, we're old. We don't know what we're talking about. Right. But it turns into less of they ran away from the wisdom we were given. And it's more of a rites of passage. And we're still there with open arms when they come through it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do appreciate that. I think a lot of the elders definitely need to embrace that, just drop the jewels, don't dump the bag on their heads and get mad because they didn't listen, right? Well, it's a great discussion. I don't want to take up your entire Sunday, but this is the portion where I ask you my infamous question. So, Dasan, today or forevermore, how will you just live?
Um, I love this question, and I love that you asked it. And there's sort of two keys to this for me because I had to think about this. One is um, I'm going to take care of me, because taking care of me means that I can take care of business. Um, and and if we're gonna, my mantra is write free, speak free, live free. And part of that, in order to do so, I have to take care of me to be able to write free, live free, speak free. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is I want to have impact, and that's always been a big thing. And I've had to remind myself of that. Like I don't need fame, I don't need notoriety. What I want to have is impact, because I was raised up by community folks. I was raised up by organizers. I was raised up by Black freedom fighters. I was raised by working class folk, and so what I leave behind me is what matters to me, which keeps me pushing forward because I want to leave something, like I want to make an impact. So, and I can't do that unless I take care of me, and I can't love another person unless I take care of me and love on me. Um, so everything centers around that idea of believing that I'm deserving of taking care of me, that I'm deserving of love and joy and happiness. And if I do that, then that puts me in position to have the kind of impact that I want to have, professionally and personally. So that's how I'm gonna live. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how I'm going out for the rest of this. I've done my time lending myself to service to other folks' ideas, agendas, intentions, beliefs, perceptions, whatever. From here on out, now I'm gonna take care of me, and I'm gonna do this work, and that's what it is. That's how I'm gonna live, and I'm gonna enjoy it along the way.
I feel like my sound effects are delayed, but straight shout out to you. That was bars right there.
Hmm.
It's self care Sunday, but it goes way beyond Sunday, doesn't it? Self
Yep.
care is the absolute best care, and you cannot pour from an empty cup. It sounds cliche, but it's 100% true. If I don't have anything, I can't give anything,
Yep.
and I can't better my own community. So thank you for saying that. Uh, I'm happy that you joined me today. Listen, you
Yeah.
could have been anywhere else, but you chose to be here with me.
Yep.
And although we had some technical difficulties, it all worked out. Thank you, y'all.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Y'all definitely take some time and go and subscribe to Dasan's channel. I hope some people have done that already. And also, in the spirit of donating to the cause, do you happen to have a Cash App?
Yeah. My cash app is Dasan Ahanu. So DASANAHANU. So yep. If anybody decides to, you can jump, $sign Dasan Ahanu, and I appreciate that. So, and it's
Yeah,
Dasan Ahanu across everything, all across the internet. So
yeah. Y'all show some love to Dasan. We're going, hold on. Once again, because you doing great work out here. I'm just,
thank you. Yeah, I love it. Glad
yeah,
to be
yeah,
here. We go way back, and I've seen you, continue to create and push. And
yeah,
so, yeah, definitely, man. It was a pleasure to come through and be able to talk with you. And you keep doing the work you're doing,
yeah,
because we need that.
yeah. Appreciate it. Maybe one day we'll do a collab. Listen, we were supposed to do a collab about some years ago.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's all good. It's all good. But
Well,
I'm
so
glad we connected again.
yes,
Yeah,
definitely, and we're gonna make that happen. Yep.
absolutely. So this is the part where I remove you from the studio.
Hmm.
And I do hope you share the episode with your friends. But thank you so much again for coming and chatting with me. It's really good to speak with you.
Yes, thank
And
you.
would you say you're only 23? Cut it out. I mean, we are old, but we're not old. We're seasoned and refined.
Right.
That's
There you go.
the sign. You have a blessed rest of your Sunday and go ahead and get your self care in. And we will be in touch very soon.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All right. Peace. Yo, I listen. I enjoyed myself. I don't know about you, Uh, let's see. All right. I don't know about you, but to me, this was a really good not because it's me, but because that brother was dropping jewels. If y'all think that brother was dropping jewels, y'all go ahead and drop some jewels in the chat. Just really, really about engaging in the community. Here, my nose ring has surfaced again. Hey, there we go. Anyway, dropped a lot of jewels about presenting the arts in the community, engaging the young people, making sure that they know what they want to do, making sure that they know what moves them when it comes to the arts, and making sure that they know that it's not all roses and candy and there are some predatory practices in the industry. So I really did appreciate him sharing that with us. And I just want to remind you all, make sure that you like, share, the episode with your friends. Go ahead and subscribe to Dasan Ahanu, DasanAhanu. If you want to donate to the brother, here's his Cash App right here. Now, listen, y'all know it's been a while since I asked for donations too, but I'm going to tell you right now, if you want to show some love, I'm going to tell you right now, you are welcome to go ahead and show Queen Sanaa some love at Cash App, because I'm not going to turn it down. I'm not going to do that at all. I'm just going to use it to have another very special guest here on my show. So I thank you in advance. And what we're going to do at this point is, if you don't have any questions for me, which y'all typically don't, but if you do, I'll answer them. But if you don't have any questions for me, I'm going to go ahead and play some music, have you all get back to your special Sunday. It was storming where I am now, but the sun is out. So I think I'm going to go lay out and get this melanin popping, get some self-care going, and call it a day. And I just want to thank you all again for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed my guest. If you are interested in finding out more about his works, please do check the show notes. All of his links are in there. His YouTube has a lot of wonderful videos with his spoken word performances, and he's very personable. So if you want to reach out, you want to have a conversation, he's there. So go ahead and check him out. Natalie, shout out to you. Thank you for joining me today. So I think that it's been a while since I played. It's been a while since I played Ring. I'll tell you just a little bit about the history of Ring. We mentioned Skaz Digga earlier from the world famous Butter Team, also owner of Flavor Fruit Studios. So when I first wrote this song, it was way back so many odd years ago at Flavor Fruit Studios. Of course, this is the remixed version, the updated millennium version. I'm going to go ahead and play this song for you. While you, if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat.
He's good, does what you need him to. He captured, but you're still unsure. 'Cause we all know that everybody plays a fool sometimes, and you don't really want to be the fool this time. But in the right time, don't you let this be in vain. 'Cause if you only let the small things slide, then maybe you will see the bigger picture. Try to have faith in your man. Have faith in your man. To show who you belong to. If it's only a display of all that you have gone through, does it scream you love? Or does true love belong to those who go through these things? Just a few years go by, changes you made in your life to be wifey, accepting things that you know you didn't like. Easy for us. their misery, symbolized by this ring. You want it so desperately. Don't be so into everything your girlfriends do. They're unhappy, sitting around talking about everything, trifling that a man. Your man adores you. He bring you the world if he could. What does that mean if you have nothing tangible? Do you really need the ring, or you need the ringonomics? You really love the king, or you only love the object? Tell me where's the logic. Tell me where the love went. And if you only working towards the bling, then let's be honest. She gotta be the finest, him gotta be Adonis. Nobody wanna take the time to study for the time test. Love and be impatient at the con without the blindness. I promise we'll be fine if true love is the object. Do you really need a ring? Do you need to show you? If it's only a display of all that you've gone through. Does this make you love, or does true love belong to those who go through these things? Do you really need a ring? Do you need to show you? If it's only a display of all that you have gone through. Does this make me love, or does true love belong to those who go through these things?
Yeah, that's the millennial version. I tell you again, thank you very much for joining me today. Shout out to you. Much love to you for joining me today on the Just Live podcast. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday once again. Yeah, it was a very hot day. I'll just say it that way. Once again, thank you. And if you have not already, make sure you like, subscribe, share the episode, or any of your favorite Just Live podcast episodes. I don't discriminate. Whatever you want to share, you go on and you share it. And you tell all your friends, you tell everybody about it. And if you want to donate to the show for better content, you go ahead and donate however you see fit. And at this moment right now, I'm going to let y'all go so I can enjoy the rest of my day. Love you.
I'm gonna get a flavor. I'm just being in love. 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 When I met you, I didn't care about love. Didn't think that I would ever fall in love. Didn't know that we were so compatible. Simple, letting go. Oh, what a leader on the edge of heart. I met a man that tears apart. It tears apart. No, they don't know what it takes to be in love. They don't know what it takes to be in love. They don't know what it takes to be in love. Oh, we both know what it takes. We both know what it takes to be in love. They don't know what it takes. They don't know what it takes to be in love. They don't know what it takes to be in love. Oh, we both know what it takes. We both know what it takes to be in love. Gonna be in love. This is something I can't control it. How you feeling? I just can't call it. I just know how I feel inside. I got love on my mind. Ooh, you know that I just adore you, and you know that I'll come before you. I just know how you feel inside. I got love on my mind. I'm just being in love. 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 I'm just being in love.